G'day guys, and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson, we're looking at key knowledge point 223. That is unit 2, area of study 2, and the third key knowledge point for this area of study. Today specifically, we're looking at market research practices, such as data collection techniques, analysis, and interpretation. Now, when it comes to market research, ultimately, we're talking about any efforts that you as a business manager make to try and learn about the market. And when we're talking about the market in business management, I'll remind you that we're talking about all of the people that will be exposed to your business. The market is anybody who would have the opportunity to buy one of your goods or services if they wanted to. And applying that, or elaborating on that, the target market is anybody within the market who is more likely to buy your products than other people. Your target market are the people that you can expect, if they became aware of your product, you could easily convince them to buy it. Whereas the market is anyone who would have the opportunity to buy it. That includes the people in your target market, but also includes people who you can expect that even if they had the opportunity to buy your products, they're probably not interested in doing it. For example, if you sell walking frames and wheelchairs, sort of mobility aids to people who need help getting around, particularly the elderly, you're not going to expect that the majority of 18-year-olds are going to be interested in buying that kind of thing. So those 18-year-olds would be in the market for your mobility aid business, whereas the elderly and people with who need assistance getting around might be in your target market, or at least the carers for those people might be in your target market. As far as market research is concerned, any efforts to learn about the market and learn about your target market are going to be identified or identifiable as market research. Ultimately, the reason you do market research is to reduce the risk involved in making business decisions. If you're making decisions about how best to appeal to your target market, but you don't know that much about them, it's likely that you might make mistakes. You might be labeling all of your marketing materials and the packaging of your products in a certain color, when it turns out that your target market actually prefer a more professional look or a less colorful look. It might be that you're making your products available online and you're putting a lot of effort into building an online store, when it turns out that if you knew more about your target market, you would learn that they much prefer an in-store experience. It's those kinds of decisions that market research can help inform to make sure that you're planning your business and making decisions in the best interests of appealing specifically to your target market. Now, market research can tell you anything, from how many people live in the local area around your shop, so you know how big the market is, to what the people in that market like and dislike. There might be a strong preference for a particular football team or a particular political party in your in the area around your business. There might be a strong preference for demonstrating corporate social responsibility with regards to environmental considerations. There might be a strong preference for businesses not being involved in politics at all. Whatever it is, when it comes to consumer likes and dislikes, that's the sort of information you can learn from market research. You can also test different marketing strategies. So you'll learn about how effective something like a sale might be in promoting your product to the market, or how effective something like a membership program might be. If you give out loyalty cards that offer a free coffee every 10 purchases or something like that. You can also learn from market research about other forces at play in the market, like the strength of competitors or the potential threat of new competitors entering a market, and obviously much, much more. Once again, market research is any effort made to learn about the market, and that includes learning anything about the market. Now, ultimately, as far as this key knowledge point is concerned, you need to understand that market research is a process. The key knowledge itself includes some terminology that describes different stages of the process of market research. And so this is the way that we're going to think about market research, as a 6-step process that follows this process. Let me elaborate on these steps for you. The first step is to define your objectives. What is it that you intend to learn about your market with this market research push? Is there some sort of problem that you need to find an answer to? Is there some sort of mystery that you wish to to solve, to learn the answers to. Certainly, it could be as simple as we want to know what colors are preferred by our target demographic or our target market. It might be we want to know whether our target market are interested in this new product that we're thinking of bringing to market. Might be we want to know how much our target market would be prepared to pay for our product. As long as you've defined the objective, the research objective for your market research, you've completed the first step. The next is to work out how you'll go about finding the information that you'll use to draw conclusions. Exploratory research involves collecting information yourself, going out and reading books, magazines, talking to people, gathering data in a sort of, in probably the strategy you use if you have to do a research project, looking for references. Maybe you start by chucking terms into Google and seeing what pops up. That's exploratory research, just seeing what you can find out. Descriptive research is much more about finding out people's opinions about things. So this might be where you interview people, both customers and people out on the street. It might be where you look to engage in things like focus groups or telemarketing surveys, but you're trying to find out people's attitudes and opinions about something. And then, of course, there's causal research, where you might change something in your business to see what the impact is on the market. You might raise your prices for a week to see if that impacts your sales. You might lower your prices for a week by introducing a sale to see if that impacts your sales. You might change the color. You might change the recipe of your coffees. You might change the logo design on your website just to see what happens. And seeing what happens is very much causal research. Step 3 would be identifying and assessing information types. So no matter what type of research you do, it's probable that someone out there has done something similar in the past, or maybe you can learn from other research. If you're learning from other people's research, you're using secondary data that's gathered by someone else, and you're the second person, theoretically, second or tertiary, to look at that data, so it's secondary research. However, if you gather the data yourself, then it's primary data. You are the first person to look at that data. You are the prime researcher to gather that data. It's primary data. If you're not the first, then you're second or more, so it's secondary data. Step 4 is design data collection approaches, forms, and sample size. If we know what kind of strategies we want to implement to gather this data, and if we know for certain that we want to gather the data ourselves, or if we want to look for data that's already gathered, the next step is to work out how you're going about gathering this data. Secondary data typically can be gathered through accessing publications, whether those are online or texts that you might gather from libraries. But if you're going for primary data route, you're going to do the research yourself. There are a number of different ways you might gather it. The first might be a questionnaire. And based on the type of questions, it could be exploratory. It could absolutely be descriptive. If you're asking potential customers or customers to describe their experience, then it would absolutely be descriptive. For a questionnaire to be useful, the questions have to be designed very intentionally. And the answers that you get have to, you have to ask questions in such a way to get answers that are going to be really helpful for you to draw conclusions. If you just get people to rate their experience out of 5, you're never going to know why someone rated you a 1 or why they rated you a 5. If you ask people to be thorough in describing their experience, you're basically asking people to write an essay for you for free, and they're probably not going to do that. And so the people who do are going to have a particular bias. Probably they're the angriest people or the loneliest people, and that's not necessarily going to be very helpful for you in deciding how you'll make decisions going forwards, because those might not necessarily be the people with the best insights into how to appeal your target market. If a questionnaire is not the way to go, you can implement observation, where you just watch people. This can include measuring and recording mouse movements on your website, or watching how people move about in store. Certainly, supermarkets have been known to do this, to identify where people go once they walk in the door, which way do they move down aisles, so they can work out which way the signage most likely needs to face, and they can put high demand items both quite near the entrance and as far away from the entrance as possible so that someone is encouraged to navigate the entire store. Certainly focus groups are something you've probably seen on TV at least once, where a group of citizens, civilians, will be brought into a room and asked questions by an independent interviewer or researcher, or a facilitator, you might call them. They might give out samples and ask people's opinions. They might ask them hypothetical questions. Sometimes there'll be one of those one-way windows or mirrors that researchers are standing behind taking notes. Typically, that's not the case. Typically, research or focus groups just occur, and then the researcher prepares results for the business to analyze. Then certainly experiments are pretty common too. If you're doing that sort of causal research where you want to change your recipe or change your prices or change your packaging for your product and see how people react, conducting experiments by making those changes and then testing that on a small group is the way to go. Certainly McDonald's does this a lot when they want to change something in their store. When they were interested in getting into coffee and implementing the sort of McCafe system, they rolled that out in Melbourne, Australia first. And then when they found out that it was successful here, the sort of coffee capital of the world, they knew that it would likely be successful elsewhere, and they rolled that out worldwide as well. Step 5 is a biggie. Once you've got your data, once you've collected it and collated it, you need to analyze it and you need to interpret this data. Looking for trends, looking for relationships, being able to prepare data in visual forms, so graphs and tables, so that it can be interpreted and understood, is going to be necessary, because there is no point doing market research to gather data to just let it sit around and not inform your business decisions. And step 6, of course, is to prepare and present a final report. It might be that you're preparing the report simply so you have an evidence-based record of what data you've gathered, and so you can point to it and say, this is what I'm using to justify my management decisions or my marketing decisions in the next few months. Certainly, if you're involved in market research, it might be that you're presenting this final report to a business or to the shareholders or to the management of a business to show them what you've been able to conclude about the market and how this might inform their decisions moving forward. Regardless, market research is almost useless if it's not finally interpreted in or finally presented in a report so it can be interpreted by management to make informed decisions. Market research is, by its definition, efforts to learn about customers. And if you're learning about customers, but what you're learning is inscrutable and it doesn't make sense, then you're not going to make informed decisions going forwards. The more managers know about their target market, the more managers can learn about marketing to their target market, the more likely they are to make decisions that will make their business more appealing to their target market. It's really important that market research is done thoughtfully and carefully, and then the results are collated, analyzed, and interpreted to help managers make informed decisions so they can make their businesses more attractive and more appealing to their target market. That's all for today. See you next time.